introduce those who are serving.
As I again let me thank Dr. Vilano. Probably I met a chance at the Bombay conference of today, food technologies, and it was just 15 days back. I decided because I had to cut down my trip from US to bring back to over here. So I'll try my best to see that I'm not delaying to your lunch. It is more on the scientific aspect of the commercial, how to commercialize Comet. So that is what is my interest. I'll try, most of these details probably may be known to you, but I'll try to summarize in a way so that it can be commercialized. So to start with commenting of origin, practically everybody knows about it, so I don't have to go more into details of it. It is part of Western Africa, and probably I was trying to show it more at Ivory Coast, but I am happy to learn that Nigeria and some of these countries also they have included the amount of product available. So we only got a technology for commercializing this product. So we have developed this product in gloves. And we start manufacturing it, but for some labor problem, we have to close down the plant, and we want to revive that project. And I need the professional support from the Nigerian organization to go ahead with the project. Coming back to the technical aspect, I think it is more of most of the So, cometin is more of a protein, as you know. According to me, it's more of a test modifier rather than a sweetener. So, although if you try to use the cometin as it is in a small concentration, probably takes its own time to be extracted by the sweetener. But definitely, it has multiple use in enhancing the sweetness of any existing sweetener. Coming back to the next page. There are tomato variety of various types. Out of that, the important ones are the two. There is tomatin type 1 and tomatin type 2. There are molecular scientific details available on this product. Naturally, if you can go through my presentation because of short time. But probably the whole idea is that as we have compared this product to any other sweetener, all over the world people are concerned about breaking down the sugar level in our food, including our country in India, where we want to cut down our sugar level to the extent of 5–10%. In India itself, if you want to, for Indian population, if you want to cut down the sugar level to the extent of our population, which is 25% of the world population, I should have at least 200,000 hectares of tomato coconuts to be grown, which is, I don't know what the presence capacity and cultivation. As far as the next so far as the taste percentages are there, it has got an unusual taste profile. It is very slow in onset and followed by intensification to lingering witness with the liquorous type of aftertaste. It must, it is the biggest advantage of tomatin is it masks the after metallic taste of the stevia. That is where we have prepared our formulation at our end, and we are trying to commercialize that. It has to achieve a taste closer to thereof sucrose, chromatin must be blended with other intense sweeteners or white sugar, with sugars. And the whole chromatin can only, it has been observed that it has got synergy only with saccharin, acesulfame, potassium and triglyceride, but it does not work with aspartame and cyclamet. So this is our observation, whatever work we have done at our end. By combining chromatin with alanine, which is amino acid and organic acid, there is a doubling in sweeteners and there is a reduction in aftertaste. So same can help in clearing of the sweetness. Next, these are the comparative data on sugar compared to chromatin and other sweeteners compared to the sugar. So, for example, chromatin is almost 3,000 times sweeter depending upon the molecule. Because the most important are chromatin 1 and chromatin 2 out of the 200 molecules. So, chromatin, then of course, acesulfame is almost 160 times, aspartame is 200 times, stevia is 152 times, sucralose is 689 times, and saccharin is 500 times. But among all, chromatin is the simplest one. We have some comparative data of chromatin along with the different part of composition of stevia, like one with rubicide A and so for example, we have seen the different aspects of this comparison. If you see maybe the solubility aspect, whereby the chromatin is highly soluble in water compared to riboside A. This is the most important aspect of chromatin because it can be used on beverages and all other soluble aspects. It can have a good bioavailability. Second aspect is the pH stability. pH is stable between 2 to 10 pH, which is a very good aspect of any ingredient. If you compare to any other sugars or sweeteners, they are not stable at all different pH. Not even the temperature aspect. If you are trying to go for bakery products or any other product which has a high temperature requirement to the extent of 140 degrees. So chromatin can have, to the extent it can have a stability of the product as high as 140 degrees compared to any other product which cannot go beyond 100 degrees centigrade. And these are the most important aspects. Apart from that, there is grass at root, it was not carcinogenic. So these are, and if you see of any nutraceutical, the most important part of any product, it has to be safe. That is very important. Secondly, this has to be effective. Third, it has to be standardized in terms of quality. Then, of course, the availability is a big issue, which I depend on our friends. And finally, affordability. Because as compared to any other sweeteners, chromatin is quite expensive as of today, and we have to see that we can bring down the price so that it is sustainable and affordable to the majority of classes. We have other sweeteners comparison compared to stevia or riboside E, which is the latest, and of course the latest the stevia, which are even extracted by the enzymatic reaction, which is the latest technology, which has got more stable activity compared to any other product. And chromatin still is compared to be the most workable product when compared to any other sweetener. As of today, it is not really available because of shortage of raw materials, and I wish we get the right support to get the sustainable progress on this project. And we need the support from the concerned people to see whether we can have a product for next 25 or 40 years. Next, can you check? Yeah. We have worked on various chromatin blends. So, like stable solution of chromatin can be made with less than 60% alcohol. Ethanol, maybe, or isopropyl alcohol. Propylene glycol and 60% glycerol. Intensity of sweetness will vary with the type and concentration of solvent. And highest level of potential is achieved when the solvent is chromatin. For chromatin will be isopropyl alcohol or glycerol. Mixture of 1:9 chromatin with gum aromatic with 0.0002%. Chromatin is a stable measure for adding chromatin to synthetic colors, and it gives good retention and strength. I don't know whether most of these things are known to you, but commercially these are very important things which I found. So I thought I'd bring you to my knowledge. There are different types of chromatin which are available, like pure chromatin is almost 100% chromatin. Then we have mixed up with maltodextrin to the extent of 10%. We have one with the gum aromatic to the extent of 10% so that it can mix with the other food products and pharmaceuticals. Then we have developed a chromatin in aqueous propylene glycol so that can go easily with the whatever soluble solution. And the last one is, of course, it is oil dispersible, with a 0.5% chromatin in oil. We have also tried chromatin with fructose, although it is also carbohydrate, but it works well as a diluent, more for mixing because the chromatin requirement is very small to disperse the product in the mixing and cut down the cost of mixing. Some of the most commonly used chromatin in the forms are mouthwash, toothpaste, pharmaceuticals, and of course tablets, yogurt, milk drinks, beverages, chewing gum, savory products, sweet products, flavor systems, and confectionery. Those sweet blends can be used to expand the use of chromatin along with other sweeteners. And we can minimize the harm because of the sugar consumption. The last thing, I think the main function of chromatin, although this is approved in India as a flavor promoter, it enhances the flavor of. It's really needed that the flavor enhancing properties are well established and evident when the chromatin complex is in the liver at level at 0.5 ppm. So there are list of evidence which has been listed where it can be used. I listed on my presentation. One can go to that, but there is a huge range of products where this can use the flavor, and that's the biggest use as on today in India and otherwise. More of the flavor companies, they are more and more. They are trying to use the chromatin for their production. That is going to be on the one more function of chromatin is more of a taste modifier. So it is acting with the masking, agents, and overcoming perception of nose. And it increases the perceived mouthfeel even at the very low levels. The result is richer and creamier product. Natural, chromatin is a natural internet masker. This chromatin interacts strongly with a large number of test receptor sites. So it works at the test receptor site that the major, let's say, as compared to any other sweeteners, because it can help to prolong the sweetness of any product over a period of time, which is required in terms of transit for specific products like gums and all. There are various dosages being prescribed for different products to be used based on different regulatory aspects. Different countries have their own different regulatory restrictions to use formatting. I have dispatched my presentation. Next. So like for food and beverages, it can go up to 0.5 ppm. In flavors, flavor range, it can go up to 0.5 to 5 ppm. In pharmaceuticals, so there are different dosages that which can be used. And I will try to give you the benefits of the formatting. Probably you know better than anybody else. But as a commercial man, I said it's the most interesting sweetener. It has got 0 calories, which is all we are targeting. Because healthcare is something everybody is targeting. Worldwide, there is a big dialogue that out of 100 patients, maybe 10 are sick and 90 are healthy. Those are sick, so they don't work. So they don't earn, so that they can't spend. But those 90% of the people who are healthy, they want to remain healthy, and they are still working, so they don't mind spending part of their money towards remaining healthy, and that's the bigger market, and that's what we are achieving with formatting. The last some of these points are formatting increases the intensity of perception of flavors, that synergetic effect of other low-calorie sweeteners. Then formatting is also used for its ability to mask weaker and in case of metal ions such as sodium ion activation. And mouthfeel improvement is another area of application, particularly in dairy and other low-fat food, where the impression of the creaminess can be enhanced by 0.5 to 2 milligrams per kilogram of formatting. It does not promote any sort of tooth decay, so it can be very well used in toothpaste also. This could be another big application. Of course, for that we need to bring down the cost of I think I'll not take more of your time, but we have different food and beverages, and there are different applications like tabletop sweeteners, savory, chewing gum, particularly chewing gum because it requires longer lasting flavor, and of course dairy and beverages. The last one, the pharmaceutical and oral care. One of the important aspects of this product is go for the regulatory status. Listed in my presentation, like it is classified as a drug by FDA in USA. It is approved by FSSAI in India. It is approved by Joint FAO and WHO Expert Committee on Food Safety 1985, and it is listed in Table 3 of Codex as yes. I mean, for introducing formatting to any part of the world, the most important part is regulatory and registration. So that I have listed in my presentation. Maybe you can go through that in detail. Each country or each part of the world have different legislation to use the right quality and the right dose of individuals based on different food products. So one has to look at that aspect while using the product in individual parts of the world, so that you are not in the clutches of legislation to see that we are not in trouble. I think the last one, in case I have to import the raw material as it is from any country in India, like we have gone through the plant and quarantine department. So there is a format of for pesticide-free this thing to be scanned, and this has to be signed by concerned authority, and has to be put on the website and see that there are no conflicts, and ultimately it takes at least 4 to 6 months for that to go through the concerned department. So I think rather than importing raw material as it is, which is a very expensive aspect, because this is a required freeze drying throughout its process for manufacturing. The potency of the product goes down if the freeze-drying is cut down in direction. So if it is processed in Nigeria or any part of the world, it is available. We can definitely bring down the cost and bring it into sustainable level. Thank you for
Now we are going to take comments, questions, observations for the presentation so far. Thank you. Chairman, question.
I think particularly for the intended people that you want to talk, and then the keynote speaker also addressed you. You're going to get your comments, your questions, insights, your contribution. It's supposed to be a conference, not just us. So if you want to make a comment or contribution, you raise your hand. You can ask the question either to the last speaker or the keynote speaker. I think I can write it down for you.
First of all, I'd like to appreciate for this wonderful conference program. My name is Fali Ihamed. I'm a student from University of Ibadan Professional Department. My question is related to the man from the old I can't remember his name. The keynote speaker, thank you. No, not the keynote speaker. The Plenary speaker. Mr. Shah. Thank you. I would like to know the markets, or the economics in the market stance for the tomatin, the localized form of the tomatin. Is there a form of commercializing how I can sell, and is there an intermediate or a form of selling? Yes.
Hello. It's okay? Yeah, the market potential is very high, as I told you. This can, frankly speaking, at least replace 5 or 10% of the sugar market, and it can complement stevia. This is also a big product, and this can go well along with sweetener. I mean, as a sweetener with stevia. So stevia, although it's a big product and is already commercialized in a big way in all big different areas, but then it has got a typical base, and that can be offset by tomatin. I believe, initially one can talk about few hundred kilos or a ton or two in terms of tomatin, because the commercial price is very high. It's almost more than, I would say, around $300,000 for the final 100% mature. Pure tomatin sale, So, and then you have to bring down to cut down the cost, and unfortunately part of it has to go through a big, long, freeze-drying process, which is the most expensive part of it. That there is a capital investment to the tune of maybe around, say, I would say, approximately $1 million, minimum $2 million, to minimum to start it. And that's what is basically the biggest. We are prepared to invest in this project. We have a market, and the percentage of this thing is less than 10%. Only the outer, the red part of this fruit is important, which contains tomatin, not the total fruit. So, which contains less than 10% of the tomatin, and that's what who can give a better perspective.
Thank you. I can perceive that the excitement is, coming up. The problem we have with this product, because like I said, I think some 15, 18 years ago, we tried try to, people are not planting. Then for those of you, if you must know, the plant doesn't fruit if the stalk is not up to 6 feet. And what interests people is the leaves. So immediately the leaf comes up, before the stalk gets to even up to 2 or 3 feet, they cut it off. So it means that you must have a specialized plantation for you to be able to harvest the fruits. That's one. 2, it's getting extinct. Even though it's a rhizome, but it dies. I think maybe Professor Makinde can say a bit about this, because I think a couple of years back you will look into this aspect, so that you don't get easily frustrated. Then the protein they're talking about is just 1% of the whole fruit. 1%. So it sounds exciting when you hear $300,000, but you can imagine how many kg you have to collect to get that 1 kg of lyophilized product. So I just say let me sign this so that you don't easily get frustrated. Thank you.
Okay, I think I just want to add something to what has been said. The issue here, what we are talking about as regards tomatin, I have the opinion that we actually can use genetic engineering tools to make more of it. We don't really have to go the route of planting, because nowadays everybody wants to do collagens. So what we can do is actually use genetic engineering, in which we can actually clone a particular gene that codes for that protein, and then infuse it and then propagate it into the plant so that the plant can grow and make more of that. That has been done, with other plants, and we can also do that as well here. I'm sure those who are molecular biologists here will agree with me.
I just wanted to, we had a side bar here. Just to encourage you, it's a whole market chain. I was talking with Mr. Shah, they wanted us to, he was wondering why we don't sell cocoa from Okuma longer. I did tell him that for us, from purely industrial point of view, it makes more sense for us to grow turmeric, to grow it in my company, and we process it. We don't sell the pure cocoa bean, because the process, that secondary stage, costs us more money than we'll get from the 300,000. So it might be, you can just play it at the level of being a middle processor. We also had the same issue with andrographics. We supply to India. And then they also, because it is cheaper for them to have us do the andrographics here in Nigeria than doing it here. So it's a whole global market which you can get to. Then I will not tell the professor, from a practical point of view, once you introduce biotechnology, it is no longer considered because the regulatory sequence are totally different. So it is cheaper for us to be able to do it and avoid regulatory issues. Not that there's anything wrong with it, it's just the law. Because we now have to be able to convince them that there is no other new product introduced in the process. And so the food industry is quite sensitive, quite complex. That even if you grow the same plant and you grow it as a tissue culture, it will pass a totally different regulatory sequence. Whereas there are nothing that has changed, the same product and then so on. And that is also why those people who are growing corn for starch, they will tell you that there are two different corn. The maize that you eat is not the same maize that those who grow maize for starch. It's not the same. That one, you can't even bite it. It's so bad. It tastes really horrible because they have made it mainly for starch makers. Any other? Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I intend to reserve my comment until later. However, now that I have the microphone, my name is Olubu Sunday Plenary. I teach with Lagos State University. Now, it's okay. I'm a witness, so one will wonder what is he doing here. But I just want to tell you, your Martin, beautiful, nice, good sweetener. But when it is natural, you must get it from the ground put than any plant. I will join issue with the man from up on the issue of mapping and conservation. I've made a lot of noise before. For me, my trust is not audible enough. But I will bring it in here now. We can blow grammar about Amateur from now to next year. And we can say a lot of beautiful things about it. But you don't have the plants, you don't have the product. Paul just mentioned it. The plant is not really going. It's gone. My education was basically through the product from the sales of the stock and the need of that plant. I read from overtake. That's what we live on there. So, being a man or a boy from a rural area, I can tell you the story 50 years ago, and I think I can tell the story now. If you get to my village now, I will tell you, I don't think you can get the profit size of a plantation of Tamatokokus. When I was a boy, you walk hours and hours through the plantation of Tamatokokus. In order to release it for the stock, therefore, you must get a path longer than you want before. But today, we will get to some people plantation where you can see these profit-making, not food-producing Tamatokokus. But the real version of the story is this. We want to have the plant around for as long as possible, so that we get this product around as long as possible. This is a wake-up call. So you want to map the plant. Beautiful. But I want to tell you, to map it, you will not only need witness. You need the indigenous knowledge. You need the people. You need to get them involved. You need them to let them know they are not taking over their land. If you don't know that, you cannot map nothing. You need to get them involved. That's one. Two, there is need to put a lot of money to conservation. On-site conservation. About 15 years ago, I had a opportunity to read away. But I was already enough then. One lecturer, 2 boys then. But now, he's a professor and he's making the same noise. If we don't conserve, well, there are a number of people here about chemistry and biotechnology. You can kill your genes and then you can have your synthetic thermatin, but it won't be a natural thermatin. And the more you know, everybody now wants something natural. So if you want something natural, then you need the plant. You don't get natural thermatin. So why not we spend some energy to see how we can protect, conserve, and prolong the life of the plant? Then you can have thermatin around for a long time to come. Thank you very much. Amino acids. So, and of course, efforts have been on to clone it into other plants, solanum, and so on. But because the real tomatin will be, of course, the one that is cloned and expressed will need post-translational modification to get, what, because it's not just about the profile, it's about the structure, three-dimensional structure. So that's what comes with that. But I also want our takeaway from this conference, and that's why the network is very important. We have conservationists, we have agronomists, we have chemists, we have chemists, everybody working together to see how. And the thing is, has this potential. Now we know that it has potential, but because of the way we always pay, our product, oil, so anything that will not bring money immediately is thrown away. But we can begin to make that noise and we can begin to get things done right. Conserve our forest, because it's another story. So it needs high trees for it to thrive. can begin to do much of this, and working together, we can do so much. Thank you so much.
If, for instance, I so much trust my father that, and I said I have a particular insight, by the time I'm going to see, I'm cut off. And that is actually gone as well. That is one of the problems. You don't want to the level of latency now. You having an example implementing that. Look, I'm a practical victim of this. During my PhD, if not for the fact that I had a link to that international man that came, that we were working together, my work was taken to CDC. You know, and that's key. And for that reason, not saying it was very difficult to share research idea. And that's why we say research idea trying with many people. That's what I think we should talk about. What do we think that can tell you do this? How can you change the mind of somebody not using somebody's research idea? Thank you.
For the issue of piracy, we talked about, and then I think that's a universal problem. My experience with South Africa wasn't actually at the beginning, wasn't particularly happy. It had to do with the holding. We worked with CSI, and then developed it. The Glasgow bought it for $12 million, £12 million. And then they now started compound from it and sold it. That generated a whole national in terms of the fact that it is a South African contract. So you have to always protect. If it's a great idea, you have to protect it. Then the other, our other colleague has said, if we can play down money. I'm not ashamed at all of commercializing science. Either you use it or you lose it. If you cannot turn it into a product, you lose it. Here at the University of Lagos, not Lagos State University, we fund the clinical research there. We've done 3 clinical trials there. And I'm sure that the money we pump in there is almost at the same par as what the department gets from the university. The idea here is that if you don't have a commercial need for a product, if that product will die, no matter how much money the federal government puts into it, you have the speaker that they are developing a product. At the end, they will now commercialize it into a final product. So it is important that that commercial link of the product becomes very, very useful. Now, for example, I'm talking about your idea. While we are talking here, he spoke about Pakia, and I was smiling, and I was telling that my interest in Pakia is completely different from this. He's interested in it for diabetes. For Pakia, which is the product that I use to make it our we are interested in it. My wife is interested in it only for high blood pressure, and it cures hypertension like magic. So you now have a situation now, both of us now, by just that, we now agree that it is actually the metabolic syndrome that the product is attacking. And by attacking metabolic syndrome, both all those cascades of metabolic syndrome is being addressed. So the issue here is that is the beauty of this kind of thing. I'm sure the bodies don't get that no money at the moment. We can see now that after this conference, at the last day, we'll now start talking about how do we raise a nursery. How do we now start planting, and how do we now commercialize it? And those of us that depend on commercialization to survive will not wait for the commercialization example. We will now be talking in terms of how many now when you are talking, I told you that Oyo State government here has a land lease program. You pay, they give you land for you to lease to cultivate. And then instead of waiting to go to Ondo, you can do it on your where they have commercialized program and have the product grow. So I think it is get money on a creation day. So we will all be able to talk and that. Much more importantly, the graduate students, those that people are actually looking at, you should be encouraged by what the speakers say, so that you know that this area is not a blind alley. It's not a question of you finish your studies, you can become a salesman somewhere, that you can still stay back in research and do whatever it is that you want to do. I want a contribution from a non-professor or director. After him, that's only professor talk. I want
from this, as just spoken about. I'll come from the South African angle. There is, in South Africa, actually money is set aside for what is called indigenous knowledge systems. That is the knowledge from the indigenous people. When Paul was talking about India, there is nothing you want to do when you talk about India. You know, India was what the Bushmen, their progenitors used to eat in those days. And they can, you know, stay for like a week not eating. So what they do in South Africa is that there is money for indigenous knowledge system in which even storytelling, I mean stories that, you know, our grandfathers tell in those days, because we don't tell stories to our children again. So even storytelling, if you can propose that, no, this story will add something to the economy, I mean, you can get money for it. So I think we as a nation need to get to that level where we have to preserve our indigenous knowledge. In plants, you know, things like that, Prof. Makinde is saying, we need to get to that level where the indigenous system is taking very serious, where even cultivation, like I was telling my little son, I said, you don't even know how to plant maize. Because when I was growing up, my dad would take me to the farm and say, this is the, you know, what centimeter you measure from one maize to another. And I know that. But do I have the time to teach my son now how to plant maize? You know, those are the type of indigenous knowledge that we need. And it's high time we start teaching them how to cultivate these things. If not, this plant will just go into extinction and we will not have it. And I can bet you it's money spinner. So we can't just focus as a country on oil. In fact, the rhetoric now is there that oil doesn't give money again. And any serious economy should know that we have to diversify. And that's why this conference is actually very, very important. Thank you.
I would like to ask Mr. Shah his source of tomato. Where do you get your raw materials? And how do you package it? Is it in freeze-dried form or you carry it in all those inert materials? Then, secondly, we're looking at now maximally utilizing this tomato. It's a protein, and we know it is not going to be very stable under very high temperature. I want to have a cup of coffee. I want to have my tea. How do you use the tomato? Thank you.
Okay, this is a major source of poverty and only the outer part of that fruit, the red part, that is called berry, and that is also a specially cut type, that is where the poverty is available. The balanced food has no meaning as far as commercial aspect is concerned. So that is being transported under freeze-dried logistics, and that itself is a big cost. So if that can be avoided and can be converted in up to powder form, the final form, we can bring down the cost to the extent of logistics. Commercially, the capital can be available for any reliable partnership, and we could be interested in buying. As far as the protein is concerned, I think this particular tomato is a very stable at different pH, right from 3 to 10, and even stable at up to 140 degrees centigrade. So you can possibly put it in the tea also. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that could be expensive. So best thing is to dilute it with some multivitamin or any other product, so that you can bring down the cost. Ultimately, it should be affordable. Any product, any project, any R&D work, the masses, the 25% of the upper middle class or even the lower middle class should be able to afford to buy that. That is where the
second plenary session is going to be presented by Adeni Akoni Jayola. And citation of Professor Jayola.
It's a real privilege, I count it that way, for me to read the citation of that great man and a father in science. Professor Jayola, as is coming majestically, that's the greatest. Professor Adeni Akoni Jayola, I'm sorry for calling your name. He's a father and obtained his BSc degree in biology from the University of Ife, now known as OAU, Patrick Awolowo University. He obtained his MSc and PhD in botany from the same university. As a professor of botany at the University of Ibadan, he specializes in systematic plant anatomy to taxonomy. So you know the rules and reason for a name for any plant. So for people who are good in taxonomy are very good at that. And also specializes on phylogeny and conservation ecology. He is a recipient of several fellowship awards, including British Council Award, World Bank Staff Development Fellowship, Technical at the School of Biological Sciences, University of Sussex, Brighton, United Kingdom. He also received Royal Society of London as well as Benham Mountain Cross Fellowship, which he is technical at the Royal Botanic Garden, Kew, London. Due to his expertise and experience, he has active collaboration with institutions nationally and internationally. This includes National Center for Genetic Research and Resources and Biotechnology, International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA Ibadan, Sussex Center for Advanced Microscopy in the University of Sussex, and Molecular Systematic Laboratory of the Royal Botanic Garden, Kew, London. He is also representing Nigeria and Africa in several international endeavors. This includes co-chairperson for Africa at the DNA 3 Barcode of Life Initiative, member of Nigerian designate of taxonomy, serial number, working group, as well as member of African Botanic Garden Steering Committee. Professor Jayola is a fellow of the Linnean Society of London. He is also a member of many learned societies, including Botanical Society of Nigeria, Field Society of Nigeria, and the Science Association of Nigeria. He has also published more than 50 articles and book chapters in reputable peer-reviewed outlets. And now round up, I can say you have a father and a very complete gentleman. Thank you, sir.
He stands on the existing protocol. As I have been introduced, very deeply wrong. Most of the things, I think good packaging is very, very important. If you have a product and it's not properly packaged, you may not want to buy it. What I saw this afternoon, actually packaging, and I thank the center for doing me this great the packaging, thank you so much. I also want to thank interRNAS for this great initiative.
organizing a conference to address one of the most growing health concerns, not just in Africa, but in the entire world. And that is the search for an appropriate sweetener, an organic sweetener for that matter, an appropriate one. Sucrose too is organic, but then the one which allows you to enjoy your food and at the same time not compromising your health. I'm talking of is that spelling there? All these things I accept. I'm not blaming any titles. That's a tomatin. So it will be THU, THAU, L2, LPTO, COCCU, tomato focus, not tama. So please pardon me. And you see, I want to thank interNAS once again for finding time in spite of your crowded schedule or space for a botanist to be able to address this August project. And I want to pray for everybody and every Nigerian, both in and outside here, that this generation will not be the last to hear about Camptococcus gallina, and the last to hear about tomatin, and the last to hear about Pachyderm glucosa. My concern is this: the rate at which we are exploiting the natural resources of this country is totally unsustainable. And when a particular resource is unsustainable, it spells danger, not for the current generation being reckless with the resource, but for future generations who will not be able to enjoy the same privilege. And you see, the concern of this has been on for some time, this absence of sustainability in the exploitation of natural resources. At some point, there was this Oslo Commission in the 1983, chaired by the former Norwegian president, Brundtland, and they came up with a resolution to define sustainability for us, as we see it later, as making use a system which makes use of the current of a particular resource at the moment to meet the community needs or needs without compromising the opportunity of the next generations, of the coming generations, in enjoying the same resources. When you look around, the way in which we exploit the resources, we do not fit into the definition of sustainability according to God. We are making use of the resources to meet our needs now. What happens to the coming generation is doing their own business, and that in itself is unsustainable. So, for taking rights and calling the botanist to come and address agronomy and technology of the focus yeah. I'll try. So, and then during the last the keynote speaker's message, I mentioned Pachyderm glucosa maybe about 2-3 times or two. I had it once. Then, the plenary speaker, the first plenary speaker, probably mentioned the plants from which this, iconic secondary metabolite is obtained. Maybe once, but tomatin, and then the products of a prof from South Africa, he kept on. Where is the plant? Where is the driving local resource? So we often focus on the economic value of the plant, forgetting the conservation value. And this is on this conservation value is what the future generations depend upon. And look at the way the economic aspect of tomato was treated. Everybody questions in this house. I've counted about 20 questions on economic aspect of tomato. So I give up. Everybody had to do sell, how to do this, and so on and so forth. So today we have exposed this conference, exposed Camelococcus danieli to a significant pressure in the wild. So, and because people now know that it is a source of money, of naira, of dollars, and let me also tell you that a kilogram of it sells for between $230 to $550 per gram dollars. So if you can process it and so on and so forth. So that means if you go out with that drive from this room, we are not going to have any Camelococcus in our country very soon. And therefore, I have focused mainly on agronomy. This is my outline very quickly. I'll try, because some of them have been taught to just take like introduction, agronomy, ecology, and conservation, and the traits that will attract some attention, then back technology, then sustainable practices, and of course the conservation aspect. Then introduction. You see, in my, unlike other speakers, you see, they say repetition increases it is in literature. When you read something, then you are increasing it. So we are going to meet Camelococcus danieli everywhere. Try to write it in every line. It just will make us remember that this is an endangered, this is a threatened plant, already by virtue of its, secondary metabolism. So important. This plant, it comes from a unique family, the family Marantaceae. And the family Marantaceae generally occupy the understory of the forest. So when you are looking for it, you are not looking for Marantaceae, of which Camelococcus danieli is a member. You are looking for it in the understory, forest floor. And the reason is this: it is a short-lived plant. So it makes, it doesn't need the full length of the daylight. It requires only about 5-6 hours of daylight, and then it will be okay. And then when you look at it too, it's sensitive to desiccation. Broad-leaved plants in general tend to be restricted to wet, cool area. Otherwise, the broad area is exposed to evapotranspiration, and then that will kill it. So we find the restriction of Camelococcus danieli to the understory forest floor is not by accident, it's an evolutionary process. And of course, maybe I should also not forget that the Marantaceae, the forest floor where you find them, provide the forest floor provides habitats for different animals, from gorilla and all those three animals. So when you clear this forest, you also drive away the gorilla. You also drive away the other animals. We often refer to this as epithet forests. They are very important. This danieli is also a common plant growing in the wild, and this is where it becomes very important. It is not a cultivated plant. It is in the category of what we call wildlife. It's a wildlife component of our ecosystem. You don't find it growing normally. And in Nigeria, it is not cultivated. Of course, you will see it has different, it's known by different names in different cultures. But I just have two of those who are actively involved in their domestication. That is what we call Uwe in Yoruba, and it is called Katamfe in Ghana. Now, Yoruba has a classical way of its own taxonomy. We call it folk taxonomy. and you see a way there. When you get to the market, you see a way there is a way Boboki. A way is the one producing tomato, the one producing tomatin, and that is Tomatopocus gardenia. The other one, which is Ewe Boboki, is Megafrenum. That one is not producing tomatin. That's okay, and they are different species. Then you find them sold together, as Ewe and Ewe Boboki, because they belong to different genera, which of them. They are both the components of story and place. And then it also be known that this tomatin is the nature's sweetest, as you can see, is the nature's sweetest substance. About 5,000 times sweeter than citrus. And that is amazing. When something is that sweeter than sucrose, then it's amazing. And you see the drive it. Let's look at the distribution of this plant. It is very important. And in phytogeographical terms, it is found in the belt of vegetation known as the Plenary belt. So where you find it is not by this, and that is what is referred to as the Plenary belt of Africa. So it begins from Guinea, it spreads like that. The soil is the same, they are similar in contents, and it runs through like that. The Equatorial Guinea, the Southwest, and so on. And this is the golden belt where you find Tomatopocus gardenia. So this is referred to as the Guinea-Congolian belt. If you look at this particular map, you find that the dots that Tomatopocus gardenia are Egypt. You see, after Nigeria, there is a forest of Tomatopocus up there. It's still being debated that not all the parts of the Mongolian belt was covered by Tomatopocus gardenia at the beginning, but as a result of introduction to other parts of Africa, then the spread of Tomatopocus started occurring. People started introducing them, but nobody has been able to successfully domesticate Tomatopocus gardenia. It refers to in the wild because it is difficult to create the kind of condition in which it thrives well in the natural environment. Ghana is trying personal communication today. Ghana is trying, but then it is very hard. Now, you see, when you look at this is the Kalahari sands, and this is a region of very low sands in Africa. And then you look at the coastal sandy areas, you will not find Tomatopocus here. So Tomatopocus stops only at with the Guinea-Congolian belt, and you don't have it spreading to the south. Because this Kalahari sands is a much drier part of Africa than any other place, so you will not find the Tomatopocus here. So there are what we will call constraints, in terms of soil, nature of soil, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, we are not able to study our soils in Nigeria. We are able to know the nature, the contents, the ecology of the soil, or the conditions of the soil, under which Tomatopocus gardenia to scientists in this field. By the time I'm rounding up, is one of the things I should be able to do. Provide basic scientific data, in terms of what is the nature of the soil, the pH, carbon, and so on and so forth. Most people have that kind of data. And early account of Tomatopocus domestication. The oldest specimen was actually collected by John in 1822. And this story has been related to us by Excel in 1944. But early steps have been made in domesticating this plant, involving the connection of this sojourn, the colonial sojourn, by name Daniel. That is the name. That is the person after which Daniel, Daniel, the soldier that first of all collected the Dutch specimen by name William Daniel, and so the plant is named after him, having supplied the plant. And now let's look at some of the morphological characteristics of this plant. It's based on a life cycle, growth form, perennating organ, leaf morphology, inflorescence, fruit, as well as array, its petiole, and of course, taste. If you want to use all senses, you use all senses in taxonomy. Your eyes, your taste, so on and so forth. So taxonomies include another sense, which is taste. When you taste the array, you get what they are saying about tomatin that they use. And of course, this is Tomatococcus daniela, and you can see the rhizome. From this rhizome, new leaves arise, and this is a typical monopod characteristic, the group to which Tomatococcus daniela belongs. You also have, this is also from another ecology, another population of it in the wild, and you can see the underground rhizome, and each the sprouting structure you see there, and that's the leaf, that's what they are beginning to order, and then the inflorescence spring from the junction between the rhizome as well as the petiole. You see this petiole alternating. And this is the flower. So if you are looking for it, you should keep this present and you will look. Okay, you can see that's a plant uprooted from the okra tree, and then cotton presomachine, and you can see the flower. In fact, at times the fruits are born very shallow in the ground, not too deep. But some are exposed while others will be buried because this flower develops from that. And this is the gold we are talking about. That is gold, that's dollars that you can see on the board. Yeah. So these are the fruits. It's a triangular fruit, as it is described taxonomically. The iris are born inside addition. Once you open it, the iris are there. And the iris is the structure of the plant carrying tomatin, secondary metabolite that we are talking about. This was collected about a few days ago. Exactly about 2 weeks. Now we are talking about petiole. You see another. You see that is a bundle of the Tomatococcus still containing the petiole. Why do they keep the petiole in the market? You see, once you remove the petiole, the leaf dries very quickly. So if you allow the petiole to stay on, this can carry on for about 2 weeks to stop and it will not dry. When you see housewives who don't close, say, oh, hey, let me get through. You will not be able to, you don't need any refrigerator to keep it. If you allow the petiole to stand and be filled, you can keep it for anything. That's the bundle of it. Maybe it costs 200 naira or 1,000 naira as you see, from the farm to the town. That is also sustainable. We come to that data. Then, see, when we have, I got to a place where we still have significant stand of Tomatococcus daniela. There is a great deal of variation in population of these plants, and this is what caused our attention for rigorous study these plants. And see, in other places like in Central Africa and Cameroon, they recognize the variety, that is Tomatococcus daniela, and that is the variety Puberus. So that means Puberus means hair. When you turn the other side, there are short hairs on it. So this is a variety that has been recognized there. How However, in Nigeria, already around 1979 or so, also noted the later differences. And because he wrote this up, he said, well, it might have been maybe growth condition and so on and so forth. Well, maybe correct, maybe not. But we need more data to begin to confirm whether the differences we find, the variation we find in different populations are as a result of environmental differences rather than genetic differences. We still need information on that. And it is also not clear whether they contain the same quality of tomatin. So we need a whole lot of work to be done by scientists. You know, the folios, does it contain the same tomatin as our own, as the ordinary Tamatococcus ghanele? We need information on this. Now, this is a relation in leaf morphology. You can see the small leaf and the big leaf. And don't forget, we were discussing about allowing Tamatococcus to mature, you know, to continue to grow for a long time. See, after some time, you will have the first leaf that is at a stage in the development. Then the other is also another stage of development. As this development takes place, there is elongation of the petal. This will leave there is able to photosynthesize and send appropriate food to the ground, to the rhizome, and from there flowering can take place. So you have this kind of relation in the field. And we still don't know for sure whether these different shapes, different sizes are genetically mediated or just by the environment. We are not saying it. So we need studies to be able to decide it. Now, the search for differences of variation in Tamatococcus ghanele has been taken to another level. This is a molecular study. This is molecular study of this plant of Tamatococcus in search of these differences. You see, if you look at this work, if you look at the work, so if you look at this, there are in the circuit area, there are two species there. This is from plastic DNA sequence and analysis. You will find out that there are two species in that place. These two species were regarded as just variants of each other in the natural population. The two plastic DNA, we discovered they are actually different. So they have not been named now. Further works are still expected to be done in the natural population. So as we go to give this a name, you will see species logo. That means that's a new species and it is different from the other one. So this is what we can carry about as cross relation. So we still need a lot to learn about this. So this work also, moved further. You have three different, gene features examined in this, and then it still came out that the different populations we have been treated as, variants of each other represent distinct, genetic entities, and this work has brought this out. I think by now, further works are still going on, and then we're going to have it. So it's not going to be just Tamatococcus ghanele, Tamatococcus, and maybe it's going to be interRNAS. So I want it to be named after my. So you have it at so this work is going on. Now, I will go into the propagation of the Tamatococcus ghanele via seed is very difficult. The seed, is recalcitrant, and then the slow growth of the emerging seedling is also an attack. So the best way is to use the dry zone, which you can see at the bottom there. I won't dwell too much on this, so an establishment. Now, see, Cromolina, Tomatococcus dorata cannot withstand competition, in the wild. So it needs another story, vegetation. And what happens in another story environment? That is a place not preferred by other plants. So the choice of this is an evolutionary thing. You choose your niche, and niche is not preferred by other plants. So the choice of understory habitat where light, is very low, promotes, the ecology of this plant. This is an exposed area. We have some search for seeds a few weeks ago, and this has been taken over completely, and you will see that the people struggling to compete with the Cromolina and some other grasses in that area. If you get to this place, say May next year, it must have been wiped out. So they cannot, we need to be clearing them from time to time. That place, you can see they are trying to grow as tall as possible, but the roots will be competing fiercely with the roots of the roots in that environment. And this is that's a natural place. That's a stand of Daniela. Very beautiful. In fact, you feel like taking your father to the place and eating your father rice. So luxurious, very luxurious, very beautiful. And it's a completely shaded place. You can see the greenness, and this is what they harvest from time to time. Now, people and plants uses and they trade in this plant. What do we use this plant for? They include building, serving and packaging food as traditional medicine, and then signature items in ceremonies. There are, and over two particularly in other areas, we don't bring roads or something like that to such places in the palace and so on. Just these specially made mats, that are used in that place. Early steps of domestication has also not been successful. Now, you are talking about petiole the other time. This is in the I think somebody asked that question, that petiole of this is petiole of Tomatococcus. You could see the height of that person, and that one definitely it still extends to the other side. It's about twice the height of this gentleman carrying it, and that is the petiole. When you leave the petiole untouched, and that is what you get. This is the raw material for mat making and other decorations that you will see in the menu. So body, catching housing, weaving mats, and so on and so forth. But you must allow the plant to mature to a point where this petiole is this long. So the longer it stays in the wild, the longer the petiole. That's the bunch of the petioles being carried and processed by this farm. And before the advent of water, this is a that I'm sure this person must be a big woman now. Look at the pattern. So if you appreciate it, you will see what has gone into this, the diligence, the passion of people who live. So it was a way of life. It was an industry, and people were making this. Very pretty, and this is another conference. You can see the conference post there, or post. So when you look at the pattern, made by indigenous people. So by the time you are going there, to go and dislodge this, it will be a fight. So we must do something for it. Now, we have been talking of chromatin, extraction of iris. This is also from opportunity. You know what they are doing there? They are extracting iris. Okay? The structure that actually supports the secondary metabolite, which will now be processed, and that's what they are doing with that technique. We don't know how much they take from from the cost of 1 kilogram, nobody knows how much comes to them. But that's already true. Well, having said all this, challenges facing focus Daniela and trade is sustaining rural livelihoods in Africa. This is a very, very important. Today, when we interview anybody, there is movement from rural to urban area. People are not ready, to sell the bundle of Kamatubugas for 1,000 naira. We trek about 20 kilometers to sell that product for 1,000 naira. To go back. So there is a kind of downward trend in the trade of tobacco in rural area. And of course, apart from that price, we also have other problems, ecological problems, or problems of ecological nature, like land depletion. You see, once you fragment a piece of land, you reduce the canopy opportunity. And once you reduce the canopy, you are reducing the chances of Kamatubukas Daniela is established in that environment. So, another comes in different shape, deforestation, farming, mechanized farming, when you use machines to till, to fire, and then two invasive alien species, which we have these days. And of course, unregulated harvesting and trading. This is very important. If you are to promote production of tomatin in the country, that means we have to do something about harvesting. But can you go and regulate what you do not plant? Yeah, you can't go there and say, okay, you want tomatin, stop this. What will they be eating? Maybe it takes about 2 years, 3 years for or a couple of months for tomatin leaf to get to that height. What will they be eating between them? So we need to do something, and just exposing us to the world. Of course, climate change is there. If it is not happening now, we must begin to address the consequences of climate change in the nearest future. The world is going to become warmer, and when it is warmer, Kamatubukas Daniela is a full growing plant. Then the implication of that is diminishing, environmental quality for the plant, and of course, sea level is going to rise. Okay? Once there is sea level rise, that means the coastal environment, the wet coastal area, where we will find Kamatubukas will also become inundated. Will increase the salinity. The soil there will increase. The salinity of the sea will increase the pH of that environment, or increase rather, become more saline, and then so that will affect the growth of Kamatubukas. Of course, we also have trade competition. One of the challenges of the rural people here is that the traditional use of leaf to wrap has declined through substitution by plastic. This is a big challenge. We now have plastic all over the place. You want to do this plastic. You want to make money. If I take permission from the chairman to survey how many women use nylon bag or plastic bags to do money here, I'm sure all hands will go. So people don't use leaves again to wrap. Everybody is using everybody is using one thing or the other to wear. So there is this kind of competition. Addressing the challenge of declining tea Daniela production in Africa. What are we going to be doing? One of the things, the most important is what I call sustainability. And I've said this previously. That is a kind of development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs through the same resource. Most things are not sustainable. In a place where there's no fair trade, it's not sustainable. I'm sure if people in the rural areas have been encouraged through fair trade, which means there is respect for price, safety, and so on and so forth, people will be able to continue that. But of course, we are also going to need a lot of we are going to move from basic technology to power technology, in which we can increase the production of this. This will come through many ways. Germplasm, we still don't know about the variation of this plant in the wild. The population dynamics and the variation in the wild is yet unknown. So we need to do something about that. We need to collect the germplasm and store them for the appropriate conditions, either in situ as well as ex situ. We will need, this is mentioned before, we will need to develop new varieties through breeding technology, not genetic engineering, not transparency. If you allow them to flower, then we will be able to. I think time have been well. This is sustainable. I will try and count up in 1 minute. I have to stop. I still have that 40 slides to go. And then look at the link between these three aspects. We can see ecology, we can see economics, we can see cultural aspects, social values. And look at sustainability. Sustainability is related to a very small, intersection, of the three. Very, very small. And this is unsustainable. This is where sustainability, and this is where sustainable practice shows. You can see economics, yes, large, cultural, is also there. Economics takes this, then ecology too, so on and so forth. So, and then the component most ignored. You can see that the cultural thing, the local people, the indigenous knowledge. So we don't worry much about them. And then we also now, what this great body, this great association, the interNAS will achieve the great the fact that this meeting has been completed to discuss about the production of pharmaceuticals, which we are able to discuss how to move this, how to make this production a reality, is an achievement of the school. But there have to be other things to do. See, there are other agreements touching on the things like this in Africa. The agenda for 2063 which have 7 points aspirations. And you see the second of this. We have it touching on unique natural endowment, and it's also touching on what are trying to hold there. That is wildlife. That is the environment where we have to do something about it. When we go there, respect indigenous knowledge, study this plant, and then improve it. I hope interNAS do something. Of course, CPT also has touched on this. And of course, the global strategy for plant conservation has also done it. And then, of course, I will leave you finally with this statement. And it reads, without plants, there is no what? There is no life. That is the basic thing. Without focus and there is no so we need to press forward, make sure we embrace this strategy to seek and continue loss of the focus biodiversity. I'm sure and of course, global strategy for conservation is a catalyst for working together. We can come together, we can collaborate, and we set a formidable front to replace policies that improve the rural conditions of the condition of the rural people, so that this production can because time is not my friend.
We have to go on to the next plenary session. And the presenter is Professor Shalom Chinedu, and the citation will be read by Dr. After his presentation, then we have comments and questions for both of them.
So I'm here to read the citation of Professor Shalom N. Chinedu, another great mind here. Professor Shalom N. Chinedu is a professor of biochemistry and faculty in the Department of Biochemistry, College of Science and Technology, Covenant University, Ota, Nigeria. He obtained a bachelor degree in applied biochemistry from Anambra State University of Technology, Enugu, now known as Enugu State University of Science and Technology, ESU. And that was in 1986. And a master's degree in biochemistry from the University of Benin in 1988. And earned his PhD degree in biochemistry, specializing in molecular biology from the University of Lagos, the great University of Lagos. He is a seasoned academic, researcher, and university administrator, and has been actively engaged in university education for over 2 decades. He also serves as external examiner of undergraduate and postgraduate examinations, an assessor for professorial promotions and appointments to several local and foreign universities. Professor Chinedu has made breakthrough contributions in research in such areas as public health, communicable and non-communicable diseases, solid waste bioconversion, cellulosic enzyme production, and African protein sweeteners, and has published several research articles on his research findings in reputable peer-reviewed journals and presented papers at local and international conferences and symposia. He has also received several grants and awards, including the CUCRID grant on the research proposal entitled Pneumatococcus danieli when biosystematic studies for optimized production of tomatin and valuable byproducts. Professor Chinedu is the leader of Covenant University Public Health and Wellbeing Research Cluster, an interdisciplinary research group working with local council authorities to raise the health and living standards of local communities. This group has, through vibrant, life-applicable research and services in the area of public health and nutrition, impacted communities and assisted local health authorities and PHCs to improve healthcare delivery services to the people, and this we call community service. The group's current efforts are targeted at reducing child and maternal mortality, nutritional and body weight related health problems, and cosmetic-induced skin diseases. The group is also involved in consultative and collaborative activities with several health agencies, food, drug, and cosmetic industries. Professor Chinedu has served in the university as Deputy Vice Chancellor from 2016 to 2018, Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies from 2015 to 2016, Dean, College of Science and Technology 2014 to 2015, and Director, Vice Chancellor's Office 2014. There's a very long list here. He has been Director, Quality Assurance and Academic Standards, and Sub-Dean, and several other positions that he has held over the years. Please, I need you to clap for him. He is the current chairman of Covenant Health Research Ethics Committee and the University Publication Committee. several professional bodies, among which are the Nigerian Society of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology and the Association of African Biomedical Scientists Incorporated. So I present to you Professor
the chairman, distinguished academics, because of us commitment to stand on the already established protocol. Many of us have been sitting on it for quite a while. It's a great privilege for me this evening to be here, to be part of this making conference. I want to personally thank the chair, LOC, Professor Lemon, I mean the man at the top. So the host, the DG Food, I'm very grateful to be invited to be part of this. I will ask to speak on the resource utilization and applications of Plenary, and I'll be as fast as possible because I can perceive that a lot of cases already becoming. Now these are the presentation outline, some of the things I'll be looking at. Let me start with this preamble, just to share some thoughts with us this afternoon. A few days ago, I had somebody say on a forum like this that Africans produce less than 1% of the products they use. And it caught my attention. I began to look at it, particularly with respect to our vast biodiversity. Looking at Africa as a whole, we endow with rich and fascinating biodiversity, and these are huge bioresources. They are capable of generating economic value and could improve the lives of the people. So why is this so? The reason is just very simple. Africa here, we are not able for now to profitably utilize the bioresources available to us for economic gain. You can see what is happening here. This is 21st century, and this is a palm oil processed in the rural community in Ondo State. I will not name the village in case I have somebody here. You can see the process, but I also want to say here that the person in charge is actually a local chief there, doing great work, having so many people engaged. Never mind that most of them are his wives and the members of his household. Professor Morrison, a few days ago, I was reading one of his writings, and he said something like this: of the founders of pharmaceutical products currently in use around the world, 74% have been derived from plants, and 75% of the plants we are from tropical Africa, forests in Africa and South America. And I began to ask myself, how much income have we derived from these products as a continent? Where does the proceeds from this product go? And looking at the industrialized world, you will understand, you will agree with me that the proceeds actually go to North American countries, Europe, China, Asia right now. And you can imagine a whole 75% coming from us, being derived from plants that are native to the African continent. And basically nothing comes to us. But you don't need to be aggressive about it, because we have a saying that he that plays the piper, the one that plays the piper actually plays the tune. These companies make the products and as such also control the market. So it's all about business. You can see the list of about 8 companies. These are the leading pharmaceutical and biotech companies in the world. And you can see their worth, like Amgen, with market capitalization fund estimated at $129.9 billion. You can see all these companies now is from this part of the world. Then I'm going to think again, what are we actually doing with what we know? I don't think the problem we have right now is about knowledge. I was told sometime that in the United States itself, the number of people with PhDs, apart from the indigenous of the United States, residents of the United States, are Nigerians. So what are we doing with all this knowledge? The value of every knowledge lies in this application. It's not about what we know, but what we are able to do with what we know. It is the right application of knowledge that benefits people, transform the society, and advances humanity. If you see the chart we have here, from knowledge application, you get the products. And by commercialization of these products, you make profits. Peter Okebukola, the one-time Secretary of NUC, once said that what Africa needs is a new generation of universities that can serve as engines of economic development and social renewal. This requires a major paradigm shift on the part of the government, academia, business, and civil society to overhaul education and put it squarely on the service of African people. I think this is the direction we should be going as of now, trying to reevaluate our educational system and ensure that it's actually contributing to our economic development. It is education plus enterprise that actually leads to economic growth. Somebody proposed this interactive cooperative model for national development involving the university, industry, and government. And I think this is very germane, especially at a time like this. The university, by university, and many higher education institutions, research institutes, where teaching, research, innovation, capacity building, student exchange are being carried out. By industry, we are talking about entrepreneurs, firms, SMEs that make products, market them, innovation, R&D, capacity building, as well as technology incubation. While the government takes care of the laws, bank holidays, and things like that. So there must be a cooperation between these 3 organs in order to move forward the economic development of our countries. Now let's return back to what I'm here to do, talking about alternative sweeteners. Why do we have need for alternative? What is the need for alternative? That means what we have presently are not meeting certain needs. Am I right? All right. So the sweeteners, talking about traditional sweeteners like sucrose, vegetable sugar, honey, HFCS, high fructose corn syrup. They are the mainstay of the global sweetener market, believed to be worth over 90 billion USD. And today we have so many low-calorie sweeteners that have been approved and are currently in use. But there is still a great search going on for sugar substitutes. The reasons are not far-fetched. Number one, there are negative health consequences of traditional sweeteners, things like dental caries, diabetes, obesity, and even cardiovascular diseases associated with sugar and some other traditional sweeteners. And again, the low-calorie sweeteners that have been approved, many of them have health concerns and controversies surrounding them in terms of maybe some of them are carcinogenic, cancer-related problems associated with some of them, which are often denied. Some of the traditional sweeteners we have already, and you can see where the effects are concerned. Sucrose contributes to diabetes, to decay, obesity, and to lead to cardiovascular disorders. We have high fructose corn syrup, and one of the challenges with it is that it contributes to obesity even more than sucrose. And then we have honey, which have been the oldest of them all. But the problem is that the composition of honey is not always the same. It depends on from where you are harvesting the honey. There is also the agave nectar, which is similar to honey. But that particular component, it has a lot of antioxidant, but the number is quite low compared to that's in honey. Now, these are some of the sugar substitutes, the natural sweeteners that we have. One of them is stevia. We also have sugar alcohols like erythritol and xylitol. One of them, like this erythritol, can cause digestive problems if taken at very high doses. Then we have the artificial sweeteners that we talked about, like SK, that is acesulfame, potassium, aspartame, cyclamate, saccharide, sucralose, and lutein. You can see read some of the concerns about some of these artificial sweeteners. Cyclamate, for instance, has been proved to be carcinogenic and has been found in the United States since 1969. These are some of the structures of the artificial sweeteners compared to that of sucrose. Now let's look at the natural protein sweeteners. That is one of the reasons why this conference is very germane, because we are talking about something that can replace them in view of the health concerns associated with them. Several naturally occurring sweet and taste modifying proteins have been isolated mainly from African native plants. And these proteins are very unique. One, they are natural, their sweetness potency is very high compared to sugar, and they can be degraded into normal distribution of amino acids or hydrolysis. That means they are safe. So they have the potential to replace both sugars and the artificial sweeteners by acting as natural low-calorie sweeteners. Unlike sugars, protein do not trigger the response for this way. That's why commercial development of sweet proteins from the African plant could be worth millions if new natural sweeteners can buy into the estimated $2 billion USD low-calorie sweetener market. Now, these are some of the 7 well-known test-modifying proteins in the world. As you can see, 5 of them come straight from West Africa. That means that we have quite a lot that we can do if we can harness these natural resources. Of the 7, only tomatin has been approved up till now as natural protein sweetener across the world. These are the comparison between some of them. Now let's look at tomatococcus and related species. Of course, when we talk about tomatococcus, a lot has been said about it by the experts. I'm just a biochemist. So I'll just say 2 things about it. Initially, tomatococcus was thought to be monotypic, that is, consisting of only one species, until very recently, when the second one, named Tomatococcus flavus, was discovered in Gabon. But out of the 2, the only one that we know that tomatin can be extracted from is Tomatococcus daniellus. I remember the time we started looking at this particular plant, and we went out to get some leaves sold in the market to find out what they look like. And we came back with 3 variants. We call it type A, type B, type C. And because we are not experts, we were wondering whether they are the same. Is this a subspecies of the other one, and so on and so forth? In the local area where we live, the people there could easily identify each of the 3 of them, and they have different names. For instance, the type A, where that is the name in Yoruba. We have the other one, the Wekodoki, in Yoruba, and then the other one, the Wodo. So, we thought it's just a simple thing, taking it to good place to help us tell us their names. But the person we met told us that for them to properly identify it, we have to come with the fruit plant, come with the fruit, come with the flower, and we got to imagine how do we get this? Well, we were not deterred. We decided to go on a field trip to see if we can get those requirements so that they can tell us what this is, the name of the plant during those days. Well, we were able to come up with 2. The type A, we came up with the leaves, the fruits. We were also able to come up with the leaves, the plants, type B plants, and also the fruits. So these were the 2 we were able to come up with. And they were able to help us to identify them. Type A turned out to be the Tomatococcus daniellus we are looking for, while the type B actually belongs to a different genera entirely, Megaphranium macroscopic. We also found out that these 2 are widely distributed in rainforests and coastal areas of West and Central Africa. And when we carried out some genetic phylogenetic analysis, we found out that these 2 are actually genetically distinct from each other, although they have similar morphological and vegetative properties. And often, are used for almost the same purposes by the local people. Now, these are photographs of farmers in Ghana. This is a pharmaceutical vanilla farm. We also found one in the States, but this one is Megafranium macrostatus plant, almost looking alike. So there are two important African genera of Marantaceae. The last speaker has dealt with that. I don't need to talk more about it. Of course, the local uses have been quite dealt with. But for emphasis, we have a lot of things they can be used for that can actually contribute to the economy of the people. Mat weaving, decoration, I've already spoken about that, food packing, food wrapping and boiling, herbs, that's mixing, and sweetening local drinks. So you can see that it's great business. This is mat making. You can see the women involved with that, provides employment and steady or additional source of income for them. You can also see the decorative aspect of it. The last week also talked about that. This looks like a balance. And you can see the marks well positioned there. You can also see this tomato cockroach in the flower base, which can be kept in your office, in your home, and in different places. Of course, for roof making, roof thatching, you can see this particular roof with a panel television. That's one that, and you can see the other one with a lot of decoration. Of course, food wrapping and boiling and serving are not left out. You can see the wraps. You can see the moi moi somewhere there. And of course, the father rice. Being used as plate as well. So it has variety of uses. Well, the most exciting one has to do with the fruits. You can see the leaf, the fruits, the seeds, and also the arrows. Now, industrial utilization and applications of pharmaceuticals generally. The areas of tea generally fruit contains pharmacy, which we've been talking about all along. It consists of a group of intensely sweet proteins, each of them about 3,000 times greater than sucrose. In fact, pharmacy actually that gave pharmaceuticals the global attention that it enjoys today. And there are 5 different variants of the pharmaceuticals, pharmacy. We have type A, 1, 2, and A, B, and C. The way they are classified. So all of them consist of 207 amino acids. And the predominant forms are the chromatin 1 and 2. These two varieties differ by about 5 amino acid differences. The protein has the ability to enhance elements of the flavor of other sweeteners and simultaneously mask other elements. Now, as I said earlier on, pharmacy decomposes into its normal amino acid sequence and is completely digested by man and animal. Okay. And that accounts accounts for this acceptance by a lot of regulatory bodies. However, there is difficulty in obtaining tomatin from the natural source, as we have been told earlier on, and that is the reason why the tomatin gene has been incorporated into some host microorganisms to produce recombinant tomatin, which actually is being sold today. These are some of the organisms into which the tomatin gene has been incorporated and used for its production: E. coli, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and so on and so forth. But good enough, even tomato today, variety of tomato has been incorporated. Tomato has been incorporated into tomato as a source for producing transgenic tomato. This is all just to meet up with the demand for this product. So these are the properties that make tomato. The taste enhancement, masking effect, and synergistic action. These are the three things that make it stand out. The applications in industry is because of these two things, as a sweetener and then as a flavoring agent. But today, the future of tomatin actually lies in its flavor modification ability. So there are new range of applications that have been sought and approved by the European Commission. The end-use industries include the food and beverage industry, dairy, pharmaceutical, nutraceutical and cosmetic industry. And the global market is put at about $36.25 million US. And the market is expected to grow at 22.9% annually. It is expected that by 2030, the world's market worth, global market worth of tomatin will be up to $41.77 million US. These are the things that drive the market: rising demand for natural and low-calorie sweeteners, increase in the number of people using it, and emphasis towards healthy lifestyle. But there are challenges, especially with the use of recombinant tomatin with respect to Africa. The implication is that Africa is being systematically disinherited, and our natural biodiversity is being taken away. That means that biotechnology is actually impoverished in Africa. So what does that mean to us as a people? We are being excluded and may not benefit from the emerging world market of food produce if we do nothing. That's why I'm very glad about this meeting today. The patent claims by biotech companies do not recognize or reward African communities as a source of knowledge or innovation for tomatin. But of course, we know that indigenous have been using it over the centuries. In fact, from our record, the first place where it was discovered to be protein was at the University of Ife. Just some years back in the late 60s. No, but there's no mention of Africa or anywhere where when they're sharing the profit today. What IDB press release of January 2004 says this: our present day of colonialism works like this. A company sends researchers into the rainforest to discover producing new natural substance. Once found, the company registers a patent or trademark and begins to catch in. Even more effective is the latest variant. Instead of using the plant itself, the relevant gene is isolated and transplanted into a single cell organism, such as yeast or bacteria, allowing the substance to be reproduced in a fermenter located in the motherland of that company. The disadvantage of this approach is well known. The exploited overseas country is left empty-handed. This is something we have to do everything possible to reverse. How do we overcome these limitations? This is a real challenge. The limitations imposed by palm martin production deficit in Africa. How do we know that the use of modern techniques to meet the ever-rising demand for the protein sweeteners should not be wasted away? It's not just that they want to impoverish us, but this is a reality. So there must be concerted effort by researchers, particularly plant breeders and plant biotechnologists, entrepreneurs, and governments to grow the production of palm martin in its natural habitat. This must culminate in Danieli plant improvement for optimized production of palm martin, extensive cultivation of Danieli plants, and development of new technologies for palm martin extraction and processing to obtain the desired level of purity. So these are some of our recommendations. One, development of potential products from tea Danieli such as jelly jam, animal feedstock, useful chemicals and enzymes should be encouraged. Patents should be developed. We should, once we know what something can do, work to patent it. There should be collaboration. We don't just push away these big time companies. We should try to establish some collaboration with them that will bring about technical expertise and improve our knowledge capital. Then branding, commercialization, and financing should also be done to attract investors and customers and bring financing for their projects. The pharmaceutical and biotech companies should partner with researchers in Africa in funding research on naturally occurring proteins. A collaborative model should be developed that will address the interests of African communities who are the knowledge reservoirs. Patent rights over products from tropical rainforest zones of Africa should be negotiated to benefit all the parties involved. Trust building is a key to all immediate access to rich bioresources available in the tropical rainforest zones of Africa. In closing, some of the related is a bioresource with tremendous economic value. This includes palm martin and other products. Different parts of the plant contribute in various ways to the economy of both indigenous country people as well as industrialized nations. The most rewarding benefits of the plant come from palm martin, a group of protein sweeteners and taste modifiers. And the future of palm martin lies in its flavor modification facility, and this demands a paradigm shift in its application based and supporting technology. African researchers, government, and industry must rise up to secure this plan for Africa's economic development. Collaboration between big biotech companies and African researchers on one hand, and negotiation between governments of African nations and that of industrialized nations would lead to a win-win partnership in the exploitation of Africa's rich bioresources. I want to thank you all for this.
Please write them on a sheet of paper, get them across to the members of the LOC. We will see yellow tags on them, give them the paper, and believe me, they will get wherever the question is addressed to, we'll get back to you via your email. Now, if you have questions, observations, comments, please raise up your hands. The convener. For the two papers, please. So, paper of Professor Chariola and Professor Chinedu.
Nice paper, sir. But when you were discussing, I didn't see if you've been able to identify any item. This plant, this course I remember Professor Yu telling us that he's sure that anytime you take such plants to feed, yeah, that's
Nine
okay.
I think not the focus it's not been discovered so far. They calculate very little from seed, and the digestion will come through, trading. So the trading system, why not understood very well? There's not the cases of the Taquino and other closely related species. And two, maybe it's more important, I just came across it. See, evolutionarily, it's a very primitive, it's one of the primitive methods of variability. So the possibility of of gene exchange, comes in once that happens. Yes.
What I find out when we were first working as a graduate student on that siege is that there's a lot of waste generated because the area is just about like less than 10% of the whole fruits. And there's this particular characteristic that it has that when you are harvesting the berry, we always get our finger some kind of proteins digesting the protein in your finger. Though in the department, some people have worked on the proteins extracted from the Tomatococcus zanelli. But the gel, particularly, there's a particular gel that seed has. That gel can be exploited into powder form for some other formulations of products because I can remember very well too that seed at the time, and some people in the fishery department looks at the formulation of feed from the seed from the Tomatococcus zanelli. I think some of that were already mentioned in analyzing the potential of that seed. Thank you.
Yes, related to Professor Dariola and Schmidt. Yes, when we are processing and speaking of this raw material, cotton material, it's where in the field, we engineers, we actually figure what we do in the lab and the market, that's industrializing raw material. So in that, the aspect of fabricating and designing our equipment, cotton. Now, so far, we're able to see just freeze drying as one of the key operations that must be carried out during the processing of tomato. But I would like us to discuss, or probably our professors will throw more light on the aspects of the process, what and what, apart from freeze drying. I also saw extraction, which the building and equipment, that's to be something like an extractor. So I would like our professors to throw more light on some of those process aspects, wide scale of to a pilot scale that we have to make sure to develop and implement for that. Thank you.
Incidentally, I was just talking to the representative of the raw materials assembly of the council. As far back as 2007, I think, because they funded the research there of pilot plant scale, about 7 or 8 million then. And I was just telling the keynote speaker that
that's part of the problem to have in the country. And that's the essence of this network. That we have to take the bulls by the horn. We have to use what we have to get what we want. If we wait on government or any bureaucracy will always kill things. 2007, we have a pilot level study, the specifications for the equipment and everything, and it's with them as the raw material research and development council. There was a group with LASU that we funded with 7.7 million that did it, but that's where it still is as at today, 2018. So we have the information. So we're not reinventing the wheel. I was talking about venture capital. When you want to borrow money in the bank, they ask you for, on paper, it's 27%. But by the time you are paying back the loan, it's about 36, 37. So how do you want to? Other countries have venture capital. I'm sure Mr. Rashad will tell you that if he has a very good product, you can get bank loan at very good interest rate. I know that of Japan is 4%. In fact, from China, you even use your knowledge, your intellectual capacity as a professor, as collateral. It doesn't give you the money. The essence is that you have access to funds. But in Nigeria, you don't have access to funds. Let me just say this, if the chairman will permit. Some time ago, I decided to maybe cultivate part of the tomato. I borrowed 1 million naira from, I hope my God is not there. They call it Agric Loan Union Bank, and they said it was 9%. At the end of the day, I paid 32%. The saving grace then was that, of course, he was in Abuja, and I was on sabbatical, so I could squeeze it in. Thank God, she never asked me for my bank balance at the end of every month. But I'm saying this for the relatively younger ones. My takeaway from it is that if you believe in anything, follow it and have the information. But we have the information on pilot plan, specification of even the equipment, even addresses of those who locally fabricate some of those equipment. Because only the freeze dryer will import it. I hope I've answered the question.
Part of this network is to look at the value chain and look at what you can do, what I can contribute, so that at the end of the day, we have a concerted effort. We don't want to go into that situation where you are doing yours and doing mine. So at the end of this meeting, we should be able to come up with a strategy going forward. Now, the second thing which was talked about, which I was just telling the chair here, is that I think also government should come up with, I've said it when I did my presentation, that government should come up with funding. And I can tell you, those who studied at UWC will know somebody called Dr. Ashley Pretorius, a very good collaborator of mine. He left his job in the university. In fact, he is due for promotion to professorship. He actually left his job and he went to start a biotech company. He got funding from the banks, and it's actually like, I don't know how much interest it is, but I also know that there is seed funding for you if you want to start a company. Even a company that makes ordinary, what do you call it, anything, they give you seed funding, and that does not come with any interest. So you get the seed funding. What you need to do is that at the end of every year, you find your tax and you show a tax certificate. You don't have to pay it back. Even if the venture didn't work, you don't have to pay it back. I mean, that's what South Africa is doing. So the only thing you need to show is that you're going to show your tax paper at the end of every year. Other than that, so you can do it. So that's why I'm saying the government to come up with this and that. People are interested.
Well, I pray that our government listen to our communique tomorrow and do something about it. We need
do this because if you want development, you need to fund research. And without funding research, there is no way we will develop. We cannot keep on relying on other countries to help us out. We must help ourselves. And it's high time we start thinking seriously about that. Now people are now going into self-driving cars that doesn't need fuel. In few more years, Nigeria will be a problem if we don't wake up now.
My actually is a comment. And maybe I won't have this opportunity again. So let me hear what I have in mind. Now, on the issue of R&D, well, I love the enthusiasm in this issue now. But Dr. Capo, if you bear with me, when the citation of Professor Dayola was nearer, the young man mentioned about 50 publications. You recall, look, that's what we did in South Africa. The man is a little bit richer than some of us with lesser publications. The more publication you have there, the more money you make per publication. Yes, you can have it. Yeah, they pay for publication there. Yes. But that is not our case here. Here, we are publishing. We are researching using our legal salary. The most difficult job you can give any professor is to go and convince the politician to spend their money on research. That is the most difficult job you can give me. I'm telling you, it's not easy to convince them. Therefore, the little we got to do, we have to still maintain our family with our legal resources, with research. So when you see people publishing around here, they deserve a lot of applause because it's not easy around this stuff. Actually, because of my friend here from Abuja, as every given opportunity I use to say this, and I want to say it now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a president, and I'm not trying to raise alarm, but I want to draw the attention of everybody to the inherent food crisis we're going to face in this nation very soon. You may not like what I want to say, but that is the truth. The fact remains that if you are a senator like me and a local guy like me, and you travel home in recent time, you will know that very soon we'll be facing food crisis in the face. The older men that are cultivating are dying fast. Every month they call us to come and marry. They are dying at their time because they are not less than 80, 90. So they are dying well. But every young soul, every energetic hand that can replace them don't want to live in the village. They want a white collar job. White collar job. Those that doesn't have education, we rather ride Okada and now marry 4 wives and then keep dropping up the population only to be riding Okada. I look at my village. If you are provoked, you can cover my village in 30 minutes. And if I'm annoyed with you and you are at the other end of the village, I will call the village in 30 minutes. I don't know why anybody will need an Okada. You know, but we see a lot of young energetic, young Nigerians with 4 wives, not 2, not 3, 4, riding Okada. And probably carrying 3 passengers the whole day. Nobody is stealing the land, ladies and gentlemen. If we don't shift attention, OPEC is going down, then your oil is in trouble. If we don't change here now to start thinking of how we're going to feed ourselves, oh, okay, we enjoy importing everything, even to toothpaste, and then our leaders are watching us. I'm not an alarmist, but I'm just assuring this gathering that we should change there. If there's a plot of land behind your quarter where you are staying, learn to cultivate something there. Thank you very much.
points in the slides of a very beautiful paper by Professor Chinedu. It's about the other leaves used for catching rules. We call it Godobi. In fact, I think I still saw some of them when I was in primary school. It is what we were shown is a straw. The roof made with straws. The roof made with leaves. You really see the leaves. And even up till now, I think the pygmies of Congo are still using it to catch their roof. The second one is the mat. There's a difference between the petio used for tea Danieli mat and the ones that were shown are actually grass, cyperus, yes, at riverine, area. And because that's the essence of this gathering. I mean, for us to share, knowledge. And before I drop the microphone, I will plead with you. Please, you can see that the network covers all fields. In fact, moving away from here and discussing with Professor Kako, want to see how we can bring the indigenous knowledge into our research. Because you'll be amazed, there are certain things we rack our brains about in the laboratory for months. And one elderly person will just say, oh, my grandfather told me this about this. And in 3 seconds, it's done. So, he said it, that in South Africa, people even tell stories. Government give them funds to tell stories. And somebody they mentioned it. The registration form. Or you get to the website of internet, www.internet.net, to fill a form and become a member. You can be rest assured that in the weeks ahead or months ahead, we'll be reaching out. And we're going to provoke some of the politicians. It's not only Big Brother Africa they have before, but you'll agree with me that if they know that there are so many people coming on board, talking to them, and they see how persistent we are making the noise. Professor Martini will use megaphone this time around. But this will listen to us. Thank you very much. Thanks for the brief.